Guns on college campuses. There's been a lot of talk about it over the last few years. Well, before this year is done, it could be perfectly legal here in the Lone Star State. Welcome to Fox 26 News at 5. I'm Melinda Spalding.
And I'm Tom Ziska. The legislation would allow both students and professors carry concealed weapons on Texas campuses. Now, this bill currently only in committees, but its co-authors consist of more than half the State House of Representatives. The state Senate passed a similar bill last session, expected to pass this one as well, and Governor Perry also expected to sign it if it gets to his desk. Fox 26's Christine Galvan in our newsroom tonight with what Texans are saying about it. Christine.
Tom, this is our Facebook, Fox 26 Facebook page, and as you can see, there's quite a debate going on. Our first poster says this is a good idea. The second poster, not so much. And we spent quite a bit of time today at our city's largest university, and yep, they're talking about it there too.
All right, Christine, thank you. Well, Christine mentioned the Virginia Tech shooting, and before that, the deadliest rampage on a college campus was right here in Texas. Student leaders at the University of Houston have been fighting against the right to carry at school for a long time now. I'm joined by Student Government President Prince Wilson. So, Prince, I'm curious, I know you've been leading the fight against this, but why not? Why shouldn't your fellow students have the right or the ability to carry guns on campus?
In 2009, when the issue came up, we had a long discussion, actually a 4-hour debate in our Senate about the issue of having guns on campus, and our students took a stand saying no to this. The main concern that we have is, especially when we have a huge undergraduate population, and students are not intellectually or mature enough to handle a situation when they have an issue actually happens on campus. And this also can lead, when a conflict happens between a professor or a fellow student, they can misuse this opportunity, and we will have a lot of minor shootings throughout the state of Texas if we actually make this law happen.
And so that's the overwhelming opinion of the student body at your university?
It's not my personal, it's the opinion of the student body.
Okay, well, let's bring in someone from the other side on this right now. Attorney Charles Cotton is a board member for the National Rifle Association. He's also a dad who thinks the proposal isn't a bad idea. So, Charles, let me ask you, as a gun rights advocate and a parent, what do you think about some of these safety concerns expressed by Prince of students carrying guns on campus?
Well, I'll be perfectly honest with you. It's exactly the same thing that we heard back in, well, the early 90s and through 1995 when we passed the concealed handgun statute. And I don't mean to be disrespectful to those who offer these concerns, but I can tell the folks, especially the undergrad students that either were not around or certainly not old enough to be concerned about it in 1995, we heard exactly the same thing, that having the glass of wine with your drink, with your meal in a restaurant is going to result in gunfire because of someone bumping you in the restaurant.
But Charles, what about the age factor? Because that may be a legitimate concern to some. What do you think about the age factor? A lot of these kids just turning 18, just getting out of the house for the first time. They're in dorm rooms. There's an issue of whether or not these guns will be safely locked up. What do you think about the maturity and the responsibility factor?
Well, first of all, you have to be 21 years old to get a concealed handgun license in Texas. We're not talking about kids right out of high school that are freshmen in college. I know opponents like to kind of give the impression we're talking about the Animal House situation. That's not it at all. We're talking about upperclassmen, and we're talking about grad students. We're talking about people that are 21 years old and older. So we're not talking about the 18, 19-year-old folks.
Well,
also,
Charles,
when we're talking about dormitories, the bill does authorize schools to set standards for storage of firearms in dormitories, so they can set whatever standards that are appropriate.
Charles, let me stop you right there and get Prince's take on what you had to say. Charles makes some good points. We're not talking about the younger members of the student body, and there are provisions, as he mentioned, for these guns to be cared for and concealed. So what do you think about that?
I completely agree. You know, here I'm not saying that we should not let students to carry guns on at all, but on campus is actually a special place. You're talking about an academic institution, and you're talking. He mentioned about 1995 incident where you're talking about Texas as a whole. Now you're coming back to a place where we have students coming to learn, and we have administrators, and we also have police officers who are responsible for the safety and security of our students. And we don't want the students to take the job of police officers who are responsible to who are responsible for the safety and security of the campus. You know, I'm sure we're going to have we're going to have the discussion about Virginia Tech here, and in
Well, let me stop you there because I want to get Charles's response. Last word on this, Charles, if you can, to talk about some of the issues that Prince brought up. Do you have a response to that?
The intent of the campus carry and campus security legislation is not to turn students into police officers, not at all. And while mass shootings certainly get the headlines, and that's a legitimate concern, and passing the Campus Security Act will help that tremendously, there's something that I think flies under the radar too much, and that is individual safety of students on campus, especially female students, especially female night students who are victimized routinely on campus. This whole idea that college campuses is this safe environment is just false. There's a federal statute, the Jean Cleary law, that was passed specifically so colleges and universities would have to disclose the crime on campus, and it's not the safe environment those would have you believe.
Thank you so much. I'm going to have to wrap you up right there. Charles Cotton, Prince Wilson, thank you so much for joining us.